So welcome everybody to episode 2 of Data with Sabel. We really appreciate the response we got to episode 1. I think we went from 8 subscribers to near 100. Thank you for your interest. If you want to help us out, hit that like and subscribe. It does help us. And then Mikey Huber, our marketing and our artistic and really everything leader, will let me know how we're doing and if we're getting more powers with regard to LinkedIn and YouTube. But I really appreciate everybody's interest so far.
Yeah, it's been some great growth.
Oh yeah. Now, Campbell, you probably noticed the intro music this week was the Aggie War Hymn. And just to let everybody know why that was, it's I live in College Station. Our family, a lot of my children went to or go to Texas A&M, and Campbell's in Fayetteville and is a senior at the University of Arkansas. So they had a pretty big game last weekend. The Aggies came out on top, but it was a good game.
That was a brutal game.
You guys are a good team. You're a good team. You got a good coach, and hopefully you can take down the evil Alabama Crimson Tide this week. So
yeah, let's hope.
There's always that hope. So, hey, want to let everybody know that this is an exciting episode for me. We've got Dr. Ron Storm on. I've had the privilege of working with Ron on projects in the past, and this is the time of year where I know a lot of you, if you're running a business, if you're contributing to a big effort, if you're trying to figure out what you're going to do next year, it's that time of year. What am I going to devote my precious innovation or take that next step funds to in order to make a difference? And you get bombarded from so many different directions on, do you go with a data solution? Do you go with cloud solution? It's endless. The different folks that are trying to meet with you and figure out how to untangle that puzzle that is your business and things you're trying to solve. So Ron joins us today. He's got a lot of experience with digital transformation projects, innovation, really helping organizations understand how to make sense of that puzzle, where to put the pieces, what pieces to put in place. So I'm excited to have Ron this week. And Ron, I just wanted to give you a second to introduce yourself.
Yeah, Frank, thanks. And Campbell, thank you for having me on. And I got to give the big shout out to Mikey. She'll be happy I finally got her headshot. So, that'll be on the website as well. But she's doing a great job of pushing this along. So much respect to everything that you and she's doing. So, yeah, I'm Dr. Ron Storm. I am the Director of Science and Technology at Sabel. Cool title. I'd like to thank Chris Sharbaugh for giving me that one. I have a history of looking at different technologies for most of my career. It started off, I was a submariner long ago. I've worked in big companies, small companies. I've been a consultant. I've been, a direct line engineer, operations person, kind of seen it all. And really for the last 10 years now, my job has been to identify new technologies and figure out how to get them into organizations. And I'd like to say I've done some good ones, but I've, also been a part of some not so successful activities. But in that, I've, learned a lot along the way. So, kind of my job right now is at Sabel is my job is to really keep an eye on the future and look at trends and, and what we do, a lot of digital engineering in those areas, but also, how different things connect with that and use that knowledge to keep Sabel ahead of our competitors, bring value to our customers so that they can stay ahead of their customers. So that's kind of what I do in a nutshell.
Wow. That sounds outstanding. So Ron, you heard kind of my intro there. I'm sure a lot of your friends are reaching out to you, folks are reaching out to me, and they're saying, what's the exciting new thing and what's real? You can hear about a lot of new technologies, a lot of things that are going to transform your business, digital transformation, right? But then the follow-up question is always, I'm not sure I want to be on the bleeding edge, but I have to make a difference for my business so we can stay competitive and then we can stay ahead and then I can unlock things for my enterprise, right? I'm sure you get the same questions. How do you answer them?
Well, that's always the tough question, because what we do know is that the innovation hype cycle is always in, top gear. So I mean, with the internet and social media and everybody being an expert in everything, it's really hard to understand where the next tech is coming and what's something for our Shark Tank and what's something that's actually going to get executed, because every call's a sales call, and everybody's their own hype man, right? So it's really hard for organizational leaders to see through all of that noise that's going on. And what you see, if you've been in this industry long enough, or any type of innovation long enough, is that it goes in cycles. So if you want to look at the future, look to the past. And my doctoral advisor, a very wise man, he used to always, when he called me Mr. Storm, he'd be, Mr. Storm, you have to look at the past to understand the future. And he was one of the first gentlemen in computers and the modernization of computers. And he'd say, if you want to look at what's going on, and at the time for me it was UAVs. We were looking at UAVs, and he's like, look at how the computers evolved, right? And if you look in the 70s, there was everybody was a CEO of a small startup computer company, right? And then it got down to about 8, and you had the IBMs and you had the Apples and the Microsofts. And then next thing you know, a couple dozen years go by and there's really 2 or 3 folks that own the market. So how do you pick that winner? Because nobody wants to pick the loser. And that's the big challenge with this. So a lot of it is just going off of a couple rules, to live by, I guess. And if you look at tech with a certain few rules, you can usually get a pretty good idea of what's going to be coming up next. So, and that was a rambling answer. So I will let you interject.
I think there's a lot of people right now getting ready to write down your 2 rules.
A few rules. There's more, and they're not my rules.
Okay.
So they're other people's rules. Yeah.
Let's start. I'm curious, where do you get like all the secondary data from? Like, what are your main sources for the new trends?
A lot of it is, I have a couple different things that I do. I go to a lot of trade shows, or I try to go to a lot of trade shows. And I know people are like, well, you go, all those are for big expensive dinners. No, I go there and I walk around and I see what's up and coming, and I try to understand what's up and coming. The other thing is, one of my favorites is actually the Consumer Electronics Show. I love going to that and walking around, and whatever. It's a couple days in Vegas, but it's where all the new tech is starting to appear, and you can kind of get inklings of what is going on. And then, reading industry articles and peer-reviewed articles, the internet, right? Just looking at new ideas and what's coming up. And then also looking at where the big problems are. Where are people losing money? That's usually an indicator of where to start digging and where to see where some new tech could help. A good friend of mine, a mentor, he was telling me, he's like, always have 10 problems that you're thinking about, and with these 10 problems, always have them. They always need to be solved by one little change. And if you can find that one little change that solves those 10 giant problems, you'll do well. And one of the things was, and again, you'll have to look up the reference or whatever, but he was telling me about a book he read, and it was the gentleman that created the electric toothbrush, the modernized electric toothbrush, if you think of that. So, long ago we had electric toothbrushes, but they were big and they were expensive, and, everything was very complex. Now you can go to any department store, drugstore, and buy an electric toothbrush for dollars, right? $2, $3, $5. I don't know what they cost these days, but that was all because that person found one little piece, at some trade show or some event that made a major difference in the cost, the way you execute, the way you build, the way you deliver. And because of that, they took over an industry. So, and that's just an example. When you think about it, in any type of innovation, there's always that one little kernel, that one little thing that you have to be able to do. And when you can do it, it completely changes, how you think and how you can actually do.
That's a great example.
We see it today. So
Yeah,
to jump in, just like Internet of Things, right?
right.
Internet of Things. Everybody's all about Internet of Things. Or actually, that's an old thing, right? Internet of Things is old now. But really,
It's old and new at the same time.
it's old and new at the same time. But what is Internet of Things? Internet of Things is we can make smaller, cheaper comms and smaller electronics and connect it to some computer somewhere. That was the enabler. So when you think about that, now it's a buzzword. And really, what was it? It was somebody making a little bit better of a chip.
Yeah, just an innovation.
Yeah. And when somebody figured that out, they're like, man, I can do a lot with this. And they made it so easy that I can lay out a board in a day. I can have it fabbed in 2 or 3 days, sent over, and program it up in a weekend. And the cycle time for new technology for Internet of Things, can be a month. So if you didn't sleep, probably 3 or 4 months if you did sleep.
What are other ways that you get that information for the newest innovations and trends?
Oh, no, like I said, just, conferences and such. Those are always good. Also having an open mind and just thinking of, and really it's networking, talking to people, it's an overused term, like-minded people, right?
Mhm.
But talking to people that are good at what they do in different industries. So my network of friends are everybody from YouTube content creators and stars to CEOs of companies, crazy test pilots, academics, engineers. And it's amazing what you pick up over a dinner with someone or a conversation with someone, or
Sure.
just reading their Facebook page, seeing what they've posted. Oh, I just worked on this project, or LinkedIn, I just did this. And then you give them a call and you're like, hey, tell me a little bit about what you're doing there. You think it would work with this? And then yeah, I really think it will work with this. The retired general for Air Force Materiel Command, she just spoke at the Air Force Ignite, and she was talking about connectors, and she was talking about great connectors and how connectors are able to bring ideas together and understand ideas. And I think that's really what it comes down to. Is it's just as much as being inquisitive, but also knowing who to ask, or keeping your ears open and listening when that little nugget floats by.
Right, right. So, Ron, I love your perspective on kind of gaining the new ideas. We wanted to make this podcast somewhat data centric, because data is a part of everything, right? Is there something in the data space that you see today that's kind of in this emerging area?
Yeah. So in the data space, all those different parts that I was talking about all kind of fit into the data space. The big new emerging trends, right? Everybody talking about cloud, right? Cloud computing. The costs are now super low in comparison. It's getting lower. There's more providers. The ability to move data back and forth is amazing. The ability to set things up is great. So if you look at Sabel and our digital engineering cloud, we can now recreate our digital engineering cloud and put it in a whole bunch of different environments, like the work you're doing, Frank, with looking at how to set up a 3D printing, additive manufacturing cloud. The cost now to implement those things and to maintain them is getting real palatable by a whole bunch of different folks. It's going to keep expanding and expanding and expanding, and pretty soon, everybody's going to have their own digital engineering workspaces.
Right.
Mhm.
Right.
I look back at my own career of how much engineering data I've lost. How much code have I lost? How many models have I lost? How many CAD drawings have I lost because they weren't in a digital engineering workspace, and they were floating on somebody's computer, and it got left in an Uber, or I mean,
Yeah.
and that's really it
Yeah.
happened. So I mean, the thing is, like, I look at the savings on that, and it's
Sure.
huge. And so
Yeah.
when you think about digital engineering and digital engineering in the cloud space, it's an enabler for us now to stretch out into new things, because once you have all the data in a single place, now you can do amazing stuff with it. So the things I'm looking at, one is AI, and like we say, AI is such a broad term these days. There's some people doing really, really, really hard math, and then there's a lot of people calling themselves experts in AI. So I kind of feel bad for that, because like data science and everything, AI used to be really hard, or it still is really hard, but the term has kind of migrated into other things.
There's too many easy commercial ways to use AI at this point.
Yeah, you used to have to really code. You used to have to do math.
Yeah.
And I think back to when I was doing computer vision long ago. I was doing computer vision, and it was hard. And now everybody's like, oh, I just I drop something in this, and it takes a look at all my images, and it spits it out, and and creates an algorithm. I'm like, oh man.
And what's computer vision?
Computer. Oh,
Ron, I was going to ask the same thing.
Okay. Like image tracking, tracking of people and things and identifying objects. So like a long time ago, I was building an active shooter system for schools. And,
wow.
so we would take a picture, and you would want to then identify the shooter. Do they have a weapon, or don't they have a weapon? Tracking the movement of people. Can I pick out a tree? Can I pick out a house? Things like that. So, and it's used all over for, a whole host of stuff. So facial recognition, that's computer vision,
Okay.
all those different things. And right now, yeah, it's super, super easy. Everybody does it. But before, you used to have to do hard math. So, but everybody's wrote the software now that makes it easy for everybody. It's the same thing with AI. It's just rolling through that cycle. And in, data science is the same way. I was looking that now data science is either under AI, or AI is under data science. I think data science is under AI, in explanations. So, just got to give it a new name.
There you go.
Yeah.
This is especially an area where I get a lot of questions like, hey, I know I'm supposed to be doing something with artificial intelligence and machine learning, but I'll be honest with you, I don't know where to start. And these are people that like own data programs, and have data to look at. It is a tall mountain. I mean, I won't say it's not. It seems like there's a lot of technology that's on the horizon that can help you kind of at least start making the road.
There are. And what I always tell people is, kind of the old quote by Dr. Stephen Covey, begin with the end in mind. What are you trying to answer?
Oh, yeah.
And the other thing is, don't try to overthink it. As I was preparing to talk about some things today, I was thinking about, how do you define a problem? How do you understand what the problem is? When I would go into organizations, I honestly have one of the coolest jobs in the world, and I've had one of the coolest jobs in the world. But I used to get to go into really, really interesting organizations and companies and try to help them innovate and come up with new ideas. And it was interesting. Every time I would walk in the room, every meeting I would walk in, there would always be someone telling me their problem and the solution that they had. Mm-hmm. And all that we were there for was to help them implement that problem. And my boss at the time, he was the best at not irritating, politely telling whoever that was that, yeah, I hear you, but I don't hear you type thing. And I wish I had his smoothness. Oh, I'd be a gazillionaire by now. But he would, by the end of the meeting, it came down to, all right, well, what are your really core problems? What are you trying to solve with this? Well, what's the thing that's keeping you awake at night? Because this solution that you're asking us to implement probably doesn't solve your problem. It's just whatever you found on the internet. It's whatever you Googled. It's whatever a consultant or, someone who attended a training conference or something, picked up and thought, wow, this is awesome. I'm going to go do it. So that's the big challenge is how do you identify, how do you get to the core problem you're trying to solve? And then don't over innovate or execute to solve that problem. Don't put a system in place that's overkill to find the answer, but then also don't limit yourself in the expansion of it.
That's great advice.
Yeah, just a quick side.
Yeah.
So one of my first problems with projects with Sharbaugh is we were going in, and this was a big customer. He and I, this was long ago. We went into one of our first jobs together, and we spent all this time, and we put together this really, really, really complex presentation and solution. And we had all these, small, medium, and large solutions. Here's the way you can do this. It's the super Gucci, big dollar, big win. And Chris and I spent all night, a couple days making these really cool graphs and images, and we had a lot of math in there. And the gentleman, who was very, very smart, the key decision maker, picks up these slides and kind of looks at us and says, "Gentlemen, I really appreciate you being here, but I kind of feel like a dog looking at a wristwatch." and, and that's when we realized, we're like, maybe we went a little overboard. And that was that was kind of one of my first examples of, you don't always have to have that. It doesn't need to be that hard.
Well, this is great, Ron.
Yeah.
I know we're getting up against time here, but we do want to keep these podcasts, short, so folks can listen to it while they're on their way to work or while they're working out. I do have an idea for a future topic, though, that you made me think of as we were going through this. College Station's a small town, right? It's home to a large university, but a small town. I've made friends with a lot of folks around here, like Mark from the local auto shop, and David from the local, jeweler over here. And, a lot of the stuff that they're telling me they're doing involves CAD models, 3D printing, right? Either things they're doing or they want to do. So I wonder if this is actually empowering not just large businesses and their different components and organizations, but small businesses as well. A lot of times they'll ask me, what should we be looking at doing? And I'm like, well, a lot of these solutions are made for larger organizations. So maybe part of our message is, or something we look at, is how to bring this to more to the front lines of the small businesses out there as well. So I really appreciate you being on this week and taking the time to talk to us. And did you have anything you wanted to ask Campbell or I while we're here?
Oh, now you put me on the spot.
And please don't make it about the Arkansas game.
I will tell you, I know little to nothing about college and professional sports. So
we're in the same boat then.
I helped a good friend. I did some analytics. He was a how to say it so that I do not violate any trademarks. He was an agent, a major sports agent, we'll say.
Wow.
And he wasn't a major agent, but he was an agent for a major sports. And I did analytics with him, trying to help him predict the best coming out of the draft or prior to the draft, and helped him a lot. And I went into, one of the big recruiting events where everybody's doing their demonstrations of their abilities. And I walked in and it's my friend Joe, and he says, and they said, "Who's this guy?" "Oh, he's my data scientist. He does all my analytics." And they started asking me about, like, "Hey, who do you like in the fourth round of this or that kid from Arkansas?" And my buddy Joe had to go, "He knows nothing about sports." So but yeah,
that's a great example.
I don't know anything about
Talk
sports.
about, way to bring this to small businesses. There you go.
Yeah, exactly. But the small business, I'll just say real quick in closing, is that's where I see this going next. Is big businesses tested it, they've tried it out.
Yeah.
Tech is getting better and better and better and smaller and smaller and smaller. And now we need to work on the cost effectiveness of the big licenses, right? If maybe they can get those. But even myself, I'm sitting here staring. I've got a couple 3D printers, and I mean, they're all cloud connected, and you could sit at your house and you could send something to my printer. So, all that stuff's coming around. So it's interesting. So I guess my question for Frank is, did I meet your objectives today? Have I answered all your questions?
Absolutely. And I know there's a lot more we want to talk about. I just want to keep it contained for the listener and be respectful of their time. So I really appreciate you joining us today, Ron. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And Campbell, as usual, I love your perspective and your questions. So thank you. To the listener, thank you for tuning in. Like I said, if you can like and subscribe, I know that's the common tagline of all these things, but it does help us out. So anything you can do is really appreciated. So I think that's all for this week. And Campbell, just make you feel better. Let's take him out with the Arkansas fight song. As long as it's not Suey, I think.
I'll add in my own.
All right. Sounds great, guys. Hey, thanks for joining us this week, and look forward to talking to you again.
Yep. Thank you.
Thank you.